Have the will and the drive to be successful, guys. Putting in a repetition into practice is never fun. It may even be painful. But pushing through the roadblocks and overcoming all the challenges is going to get you to a much better place. It's going to get you to that higher ground. Sacrifice today for a brighter future tomorrow. That's what it's all about. What we're teaching you here has to be applied. It has to be practiced. The more you apply it, the more you believe it, become it, achieve it. So let's get after it. So let's look at conversion. All conversions are is a type of kitchen math, but this kitchen math is very, very important to your career, and it's going to be vital that you know conversions if you're trying to move forward. As you start to build and develop those tools in your skill set, you're going to realize that conversions are used everywhere in your job, not just with converting recipes. When I'm doing my prep calls, I'm using conversions. When I'm doing inventory, I'm using conversions. When I'm placing orders, I'm using conversions. I use it all the time. And since I use them all the time, I'm very, very fluent with the kitchen math that's involved with conversions. And that's somewhere where I want to get you to. I want to get you to the point to where you can convert everything very, very easily. Now, a lot of what you're going to be seeing in this video builds off of my Measurement 101 video. So if you haven't watched that yet, start with that one and then come back. Both videos are vital for how you use and interpret this information. So let me give you an example of how I'm using conversions when I'm making my prep calls. Let's say I go into the cooler and I have a gallon of chili, and I know that one order of chili is 8 ounces. Well, I can easily convert that in my head, and I know that because I have 8 ounces in that container, that's going to be 16 orders. So from there, I can go to my P-mix and production level mix, and I can decide if I actually want to prep more chili based on our usage. So that's one example of how I'm using conversions without actually converting a recipe. Here's another example. Let's say I'm walking down the line and I go to my salad station and I have a 6-pan of ranch. I know that one 6-pan is going to be 2 quarts, and I know that every salad that I sell with ranch is going to be 2 ounces of dressing. So how many times does 2 ounces go into 2 quarts? I need to figure that out. So I know that 1 quart has 4 cups, and I know each cup has 8 ounces. So that's 32 ounces in 1 quart. I'm going to multiply that by 2 to get 64. So if every salad has 2 ounces of ranch, I'm just going to divide that by 2, and it's going to be 32 ounces. So I can make 32 entire salads with the amount of ranch I have in that pan. So that gives me a good idea if I actually need to prep ranch for the day or not. So I know starting out this is going to be very, very overwhelming. And for me it was too. But I decided to go home and spend some time hitting the books. And if you do the same, you'll get to a level to where you can just walk down your kitchen and go bam, bam, bam. I know exactly what everything is. I know exactly how much I have. So I know exactly how much I need to prep, and I know exactly how much I need to order. We're working smart here, guys. But there is some work that needs to be done on the back end to get to that level. And that's what you need to do. You need to study and hit the books and get to this level moving forward. Let me give you one more example. Let's say heavy cream comes in 1 quart, but there's a market shortage of heavy cream. So you get a substitute product that gives you 5 gallons. Well, how many quarts are in 5 gallons? Well, there's 4 quarts to a gallon, and if you have 5 gallons, it's gonna be 20 quarts. So when you're doing inventory, you know that if you have 5 gallons of heavy cream, you have 20 quarts. And if you're doing your orders by the quart, you need to know that and be able to break that down as well. You need to be able to quickly convert, because when you're live in field, you're too busy to sit there and do the math with pen and paper when you're doing the orders or you're doing your inventory. So you need to have good working knowledge of this information. So once again, if you go back to the measurements video, I'm going to have a breakdown of your solids and your liquids and your commonly used measurements, and it's going to give you a good idea of basic measurements. From there, you can kind of just do the math and figure out how everything fits in. So let's look at some live examples. And before I get into actual recipes, we're going to have to talk about fractions, multiplying and dividing fractions, because it's going to come into play a lot. So first, let's look at multiplying fractions. Let's say I have a half recipe and I want to multiply it by 2. So when you're doing fractions and you're multiplying, just multiply across. So it's going to be 1 times 2, which equals 2. And then the bottom is going to be 2 times 1, which equals 2. So your answer is going to be 2 over 2, which actually equals 1. Now, I'm going to quickly show you how to use division with fractions as well. But when we're done with this, I'm going to give you a nice trick to do these fractions quickly. So when you're dividing fractions, it's gonna be a little bit different. So let's do the same example, but instead of multiplying by 2, let's take a half and divide it by 2. How do we do that problem? So we have 1 over 2, and again, we're gonna put the single digit over 1, which is gonna be 2 over 1. From there, we're gonna take the reciprocal. So you look at the second number, and you rotate the digits. So it's gonna be 1 over 2. And then, you just multiply across. So it's gonna be 1 times 1 equals 1, and 2 times 2 equals 4. So your answer, if you're dividing by 2, is gonna be 1/4. So you're probably not in a position where you have a pen and paper and you can stand around doing math all day. So I'm gonna give you a nice trick that's gonna help you easily solve these problems. When you're looking at conversions, think about money. Let's look at the first example again. You have a half-time recipe and you wanna multiply it by 2. So what's 50 cents times 2? It's $1. It's the same answer if we do it on paper, but we're just looking at it like money. I know money is something that we all understand. So let's again look at the example of the 1/2 divided by 2. Now we have 50 cents and we want to divide it in half. Well, now we have a quarter, 1/4. So let's look at a couple recipes. The first recipe is going to be meatloaf. Your yield's going to be 8 pieces and 5 ounces. So when you're calling your prep, you need to be able to convert the yield. That's going to be the first step. So if I have 8 pieces of meatloaf and my projected usage is 16, I'm gonna multiply it by 2. I have ground beef, 3 pounds. I just multiply 3 by 2, so it's gonna be 6 pounds of ground beef. Eggs, 2 times 2 is 4, basic enough. Yellow onion, 8 ounce times 2. That's gonna be 1 pound, because 1 pound is 16 ounces. Milk, 2 cups. Well, I multiply that by 2, so it's gonna be 4 cups of milk, or 1 quart. Panko, 1.5 cups. That's gonna be 3 cups. So think about that one. If you have $1.50, and you add another $1.50, it's gonna be 3. So 3 cups of panko. Salt, 1 tablespoon. If I multiply 1 by 2, it's gonna be 2 tablespoons. Pepper, 1.5 teaspoons. That's gonna be 3 teaspoons. Because remember, we have $1.50 and $1.50. So what is 3 teaspoons? It's 1 tablespoon. So we have 1 tablespoon of pepper. Brown sugar, I have 4 tablespoons. So 4 times 2 is gonna be 8 tablespoons. Well, what's 8 tablespoons? It's 4 fluid ounces. So that's gonna be 1/2 of a cup. Mustard, 2 teaspoons. 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 teaspoons. Or 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon. So looking at this recipe once it's converted, we're able to see that we actually are able to measure these items with bigger units of measure. So look at brown sugar, for example. 8 tablespoons, I was able to quickly say that, hey, that's 1/2 a cup. That's a lot quicker to measure out 1/2 a cup than to take 8 tablespoons and get brown sugar with it 8 different times. That's the beauty of being able to convert your recipes. Milk's another one. 4 cups of milk is 1 quart. So I can take a 1 quart pitcher and I can use that to measure my milk, or I can take milk and pour it into cups 4 different times. But that's gonna take a lot of time. So like, it makes more sense to use the 1 quart pitcher. It's easy, right? But you just have to spend some time to study and learn this information. So let's look at one more recipe. Let's make that ranch that we had on the line earlier. Our yield's gonna be 1.5 cups. Maybe I don't want 1.5 cups in this case, so let's do a half batch. So I'm dividing everything in this recipe by 2. So my yield should be 0.75 cups. Because remember, we have $1.50 and we're gonna take half of that away. So now we have 75 cents. So it's gonna be 0.75 of a cup. Mayonnaise, I have 1 cup to start with. I'm gonna divide that by 2. That's gonna be a half cup. Buttermilk, I have 1/4 of a cup. Now money might not work in this case because there's no clean measure of unit that can divide 1/4 in half. But if you're looking at the reciprocal, half of 1/4 is 1/8. So we're looking at 1/8 of a cup. Sour cream, 1/2 of a cup. Money in this case would work. What's half of 50 cents? 25 cents. So 1/2 of a cup converts into 1/4. Parsley, 1/4 teaspoon. That's gonna be 1/8 of a teaspoon. Dill weed, 1/4 of a teaspoon. Again, that's gonna be 1/8 of a teaspoon, easy. Salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon. Well, that's gonna be 1/16 of a teaspoon. So salt is gonna be 1/16 of a teaspoon. So not a lot of people know this, but 1/16 of a teaspoon is actually a pinch. It's not actually physically just pinching the salt and putting it in. A pinch is actually a unit of measure. So guys, as you can see, using conversions and knowing your measurements is gonna go a long ways. It is literally the backbone of working in a kitchen, and this information is so important, and it's important that you know and understand this if you want to build a solid kitchen career. So this is a fundamental, and you have to look at your fundamentals as bricks. So think of it as you're just laying a foundation, and every brick is a fundamental. But everything you learn and everything you study just keeps building and building and building. And that structure that you're building is going to be your career. And you're going to go forward into having this blossoming career. But it starts here when you hit the books and you study. Thanks for making it to the end of this video, guys. I really appreciate your support. If you learned something, please subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll make sure to get back to you.